You're listening to the Be a Better Lawyer podcast with Dina Cataldo, episode 129.
So how do high-achieving lawyers break through generations of being taught that we have to grind ourselves into the ground to get results for clients, build a successful business, and create a life we love? While law schools are busy teaching the rule of law, they're slacking on teaching us how to be a better human to create for ourselves the success we thought we'd achieve after law school. This podcast bridges the gap between law school and life.
Hello. How are you doing today? So I'm recording this before Election Day, and that means that I have no idea what Tuesday has brought. This is going to be broadcast 2 days after the election, and I do not know who is going to be our president. I do not know what is going on in the world today as this is being put out into the world. But the one thing that I do know is that no matter what happens on one day out of our year, that the broader picture of our life is not going to be impacted, that we will create what we want to create in our lives and impact the people that we want to impact no matter what happens on a single day in a single year. So with that said, let's talk about how we can have that impact. And it all starts by changing how we think about ourselves and where we are. If you are a longtime listener to the podcast, then it's no surprise to you when I tell you that when we feel stuck, it's because of our thinking. We are thinking certain thoughts that are blocking us from taking action and making decisions. Even if we think that making a decision may be good for us, we delay making that decision because of thoughts that we have about ourselves, about the decisions that we have to make. Those thoughts are keeping us stuck in a holding pattern instead of making a decision that will move us forward. Think about when you've made a New Year's resolution to go to the gym or start juicing, but it never happens, and you go back to your old habits. That's an example of keeping ourselves stuck. Or maybe you have multiple books on your nightstand and you skip from one book to another book to another book and never finish one. The thing to do would be to decide to read one book, stick with it, and move through that book stack. But our brain actually tells us that if we skip from book to book, that eventually we'll get them all read. It just doesn't feel like reading that particular book that night. It's deciding to be confused. It's deciding not to follow through on completing a book. Because it's hard. It's hard to stay committed to one thing if we're not practiced at it and we don't see the long-term dividends in the moment that we're making that decision. Our brain wants to keep us happy in that moment. It's not concerned with whether or not what we're doing in that moment is in alignment with our long-term goals, right? Like it does not care about that. It just wants us to feel good. And those patterns follow us into our business. Feeling good doesn't necessarily correlate with following through on what we've planned, but that's what we have to do if we want to create our business. These patterns show up when we create our calendar, or we don't bother creating a calendar, when we don't follow through on our plans, when we focus on things that are not essential to building our practice in favor of the ones that would actually help us move it forward. If we let these patterns rule us, then we stay stuck. So what I'm going to talk to you about today are 5 thoughts that really come up over and over again in the people, the lawyers that I work with, that I see who are really stuck. I've been through all of these. I've had all these thoughts myself. I've worked through them and rewired my lawyer brain so that I can bust out of these patterns when I see them popping up. I'm going to share all of those with you, and I'm going to give you some insights to take with you so that you can start dissolving these patterns. So I want you to really focus on this because these thoughts are ones that are sneaky. I know I've talked about sneaky thoughts before in this podcast, and I want you to recognize that these are the thoughts that can keep us really stuck, and it's harming our businesses. I'm going to share those with you and how you can dissolve them and to start taking action. Before I do, I want to invite you to download the Busy Lawyer's Quick Start Guide to getting 5 hours back weekly. I will walk you through in this guide the processes I use each week to plan out my calendar, to lay out exactly what my plan is, to decide ahead of time. And I taught this method to lawyers who attended the Clio conference a few weeks back, and the ones who implemented it right away told me they noticed a difference immediately. So you can download it at dinacataldo.com/busy lawyer. That's dinacataldo.com/busy lawyer. And if you know you want more help getting unstuck and learning how to master your calendar to get more done with less stress, I am here to help you. I can help you be more productive and not feel overwhelmed. It's one of those skills that we can learn, but it takes a lot of work. It took me years to bust through it. And I think the very first realization I had that it was working was when I had completely redesigned my life, was in like a homicide trial actually, that was taking, like 60 hours, 70 hours of my week really devoted to it. And I did not feel stressed out. Like I knew exactly how to handle what I needed to handle, and I took care of myself. So I want you to recognize that this is possible for you too. Book a strategy session with me. I will outline exactly where you're stuck and need help. You can go to dinacataldo.com/strategy session to get started working with me. So here's the 5 thoughts that are keeping you stuck and how to bust through them. I'm saving the very best one, or at least the one that is the most common among lawyers, for last. So listen through them all to see if it's the one that you are thinking. I know that I definitely thought it. So the first thought I want to bring awareness to you is the thought, I don't have enough time. The clients who come to me with some awareness that they think this thought catch themselves after the words come out of their mouths, and they tell me something like, okay, I know what I'm actually doing is just structuring my time ineffectively. Yes, it's not that you don't have enough time, it's that you're not prioritizing. When we tell ourselves that we don't have enough time, our brain starts looking for all the reasons we don't have enough time. It's looking for evidence to support our argument to ourselves, and our arguments are really just excuses. If you want to get something done, like implement something in your practice, build your client base, whatever it is, you're going to find the time. You can start getting unstuck if you see yourself saying these words to yourself that you don't have enough time by asking yourself, what can I delete from my calendar? Where can I prioritize better? What would make my schedule easier? When you start looking at your calendar from just a little bit of a different perspective, you will be able to locate the time that you need. The second thought that keeps us stuck is the thought, I should be able to figure this out on my own. I can figure it out on my own. I can do this. Yes, all right. This sounds like it's a great thought. It sounds like one that makes a lot of sense. Well, hey, I'm a smart person. I should be able to figure this out. I can do this. And I see this come up a lot for clients when it comes to figuring out how to use their calendar to further their goals and to reduce their stress. I'll hear that they put off hiring me because they thought they should be able to figure it out on their own. Then when they hit a wall, they decide they need help. I went through this too. I had to hit rock bottom. I had to be stressed out, overwhelmed, unfulfilled. I had to just feel basically horrible in order for me to feel better. I don't want anyone to have to hit rock bottom and feel horrible in order to feel better. I'd like it if, these podcasts bring you some awareness so that you can start taking action on your own behalf. When I was figuring out how to make time for my business while being a full-time lawyer, I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what I didn't know, and that's okay. When we tell ourselves that we should be able to figure this out on our own, what we're doing is we're looking at a problem from inside of a box. We aren't able to think about our problems differently. Sometimes we just need another person's perspective on our business to get moving in the direction that we want. What helped me get unstuck when I was telling myself this thought are these things. So who seems like they know what they're doing that I resonate with? Why am I choosing to put myself through feeling this way? Why am I choosing to feel this emotion? Because feeling stuck does not feel good. To me, it felt like there was a big rock on top of my chest. And why would I choose to feel that for any length of time when someone could help me take the rock off my chest? When I realized I was choosing to feel stuck, that's when I decided to hire a coach and get unstuck. The third thought I see keeping a lot of us stuck is the thought building our business, my business, will take a long time. And this is one thought that I have seen my brain gravitate to. It's almost soothing to think this because if we're not making the progress we want to see in our business, then our brain falls back on this thought, well, it takes a long time, don't worry about it. And it's giving us an out for not creating the results that we want right now. Once I began seeing that time had nothing to do with my success in my business and refocused my brain on what really mattered, namely getting my name out there and making offers to help, I began seeing that I have control over how quickly I grow my business. And my coach gave me a great counter thought to this one, which is building my business doesn't have to take a long time, but I am in it for as long as it takes. I'm there. I'm committed to myself. So remind yourself that you're committed to yourself, that you're committed to your vision anytime you find yourself falling back on this false belief that it will take a long time to build your business. A fourth thought that I see a lot is I should work harder. Or another version of this is I'm lazy, right? It's like beating ourselves up saying we should be working harder. I'm not doing enough. And I used to think these things. And besides this, it's one of the most, besides the last thought I'm going to talk to you about, it's one of the most destructive thoughts to building a business. It will have you hustling hard without much progress. You're going to be fighting for those millimeters rather than gaining inches in ease. And you'll be beating yourself up for not doing the amount of work you perceive to be the right amount of work. And of course, we can never do enough work. We can always work harder, is what we're telling ourselves. There is never that point where we get to having enoughness, enough of the work, enough of the hustle or grind, unless we start recognizing what our brain is doing, these falsehoods that it's bringing forth to us, like I should be working harder, we will be stuck in that grind. Starting to recognize this is going to get you out of that grind. So to help you get out of the grind, ask yourself, what am I making it mean about myself when I think I should work harder? Are you making it mean that you're lazy? Are you making it mean that you're not a good person? What are you trying to prove by working harder? Whose validation am I seeking by working harder? How can I validate myself without stressing myself out by working longer hours? Usually when my clients think these thoughts, it's because they don't see how valuable they are. And I want to separate that innate human value and the value you bring to your clients. You are 100% valuable as you are. You do not need to change a thing. You do not need to pursue a business to prove your worth. You do not need other people to see how hard you're working to be valuable. Your worth as a human is completely separate from the value you're bringing your clients. You are not your work. Being a lawyer doesn't define you. How hard you think you are working or how other people think you are working doesn't define you. When you get clear on this self-worth, your value, it becomes easier to let this thought go. And I'm really stressing this because so many young lawyers especially get caught up in this identity of being a lawyer and what it means to be a lawyer. And we let outside people define what it means to be a lawyer. And usually those people are old school lawyers who are working 80 hours a week and don't have great family lives and are stressing themselves out and maybe have health problems. I hope you think for yourself on this, because if we get caught up on what we think it means to be a lawyer, then we're always going to be chasing something rather than defining for ourselves what it means to be a lawyer and to have a life that we love, to have a business that we want to show up for. So really take that to heart. Okay, so number 5, this is a big one. The thought, I don't know. You know, when you're trying to find out what your friend wants to do and you ask them, well, what do you want to do? And then they say, I don't know. What do you want to do? And then you say, I don't know. It really doesn't matter to me. And the wheel goes round and round. Well, that's the same thing going on in your brain when you decide you don't want to make a decision for yourself. You make zero progress and you feel frustrated. You rely on what other people think to make your decisions for you. So your friend may want to watch a movie and you say okay rather than thinking up something for yourself that you really want to do. It's super annoying in the dating world and it's super unhelpful in the business world. It keeps you spinning in your brain without taking action. And action is what creates a business. Action comes from thought. And if we don't make a decision, then we don't have a thought that will generate action. Indecisiveness is really deciding not to take action. It's deciding to stay stuck. And I'm going to ask you some questions right now. And if you find yourself answering, I don't know, to any of these questions, then you are stuck. The only way to get out of it is by deciding that you want something different for yourself. What do you want for your business? Be really specific about this. What's the revenue that you want? What kind of clients do you want to have? What's your favorite kind of law to practice? Here's another one. What do you want for yourself? What does your ideal day look like? How much time do you want to spend on your business, practicing the law, on your home life, on yourself? What will make your plan possible? If you've answered I don't know to any of these questions, decide whether you want to stay stuck or you want to move your life forward. When we are stuck, we are in stasis mode, like Han Solo was when he was frozen in carbonite in The Empire Strikes Back. We can't move towards all those things that we're daydreaming about because we're frozen in place. We can't make decisions. If you are stuck, you can make change though. You can think differently and you can start changing your life and changing your habits. And I had all of these same thoughts that I've talked to you about, and I busted through every single one of them with the help of coaches. This is the work. If we want to create success for our businesses and love our lives, we've got to take 100% responsibility for getting unstuck. And when you're ready to create that exact life you want, I am here. I offer one-on-one coaching for lawyers just like you. When you're ready, you can book a strategy session with me. I'm at dinacataldo.com/strategy session, and I'll help you in that session see exactly how you can begin moving your law firm and your life in the direction that you choose, how to make a decision, how to practice making decisions over and over again. Because the more action we take that comes from decisions, the further we will be able to take our lives in a shorter period of time. So just start thinking about what the answers to the questions that I pose to you in this podcast are, because when you start looking at the answers to them, you will begin seeing a way forward. And if you start seeing that way forward and you're not taking steps towards it, why? Ask yourself what you're afraid of. Why aren't you moving towards what you are telling yourself that you want? Are you making excuses, saying you don't have enough time, all of those things that are keeping you stuck? Or are you telling yourself maybe that you can't do it, that you don't know how to do it, that it's just not the right time? All of those old thoughts are keeping you stuck. And if you want to get out of that, if you really want to take your life and move it up to the next level where you are creating what you want with purpose, then you got to start making decisions. So I hope that this gave you some food for thought today, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye.